With that, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to our first panelist. Our first panelist is Mr. Mohammed Abdulaziz Al-Dalaimi, a leading figure in the business and technology sectors of Qatar. Mr. Al-Dalaimi currently serves as a board member of Qatar Development Bank, where he is instrumental in fostering the growth of Qatar's SME sector. As a visionary entrepreneur and technology leader, he has a track record of driving innovation in financial technology, telecommunications, and satellite communications. He is the co-founder and CEO of Pay Later and the founder of Skip Cash, both of which have revolutionized digital payment solutions in Qatar. And throughout his distinguished career, Mr. Al-Dalaimi has also held key leadership roles at Qatar's satellite company, contributing significantly to Qatar's fintech and telecom advancements. And his areas of expertise include strategic planning, business development, and implementing cutting-edge technology. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Mohammed Abdulaziz Al-Dalaimi. As a part of this esteemed panel, we have got with us Mr. Ahmed Rashid Al-Musafiri, the founder and chairman of Maroon Capital Advisory LLC. With over 14 years of experience in investment banking, corporate finance advisory, and experience in investment banking, corporate finance advisory, Mr. Musafiri has played a key role in advising companies on IPOs, listings, and mergers and acquisitions in Qatar. And under his leadership, Maroon Capital successfully executed significant listings of great value for prominent firms on the Qatar Stock Exchange. Mr. Al-Musafiri holds an executive master's from HSC Paris, and he's a board member of several companies, both listed and private, and he's passionate about advancing Qatar's capital markets. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Ahmed Rashid Al-Musafiri. A name that needs no introduction, our third panelist is Mr. Gopal Balasubramaniam, a senior partner at KPMG Qatar, where he has been instrumental in the firm's remarkable growth over the past 31 years. Joining KPMG as the 8th employee, Mr. Balasubramaniam has helped expand the firm into a leading force with over 400 employees. He leads the audit services, overseeing key clients, including major listed entities, financial institutions, and government organizations like Qatar Energy. Mr. Balasubramaniam is a recognized leader in the oil and gas sector, offering valuable insights and strategic advice to Qatar's most prominent businesses. And beyond his professional achievements, he has made significant contributions to the Indian community in Qatar, holding leadership positions in several community organizations. And he has been recognized for his excellence with numerous accolades, including the Dilip Thakkar CA Professional Achievers Award in 2016, being named one of the top 50 prominent Indian achievers in Qatar, and receiving the prestigious titles like Ulagga Tamil Mamani by the World Tamil Economic Forum in the year 2023. Please put your hands together as Mr. Gopal takes the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to our fourth panelist, Mr. Ajay Kumar, the Executive Vice President and Head of Global Asset Management at QNB Group. With a wealth of experience in finance, equity, and debt markets and asset management, Mr. Kumar has driven the expansion of QNB's asset management operations across international markets, including Singapore, Switzerland, and Egypt. Holding prestigious qualifications like an MBA, CFA, FRM, and CAIA, Mr. Kumar has established himself as a leader in the industry, earning accolades such as the Best Fund Manager Award for 5 consecutive years, and his strategic vision has also played a crucial role in establishing QNB's key services, including custody and brokerage. And beyond his role at QNB, Mr. Kumar serves on the board of the Qatar's Derivatives Exchange and Qatar Central Depository, contributing to strategic decisions and shape Qatar's financial landscape. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Kumar. Ladies and gentlemen, now it gives me immense pleasure to introduce you all to our fifth and the final panelist. Engineer Mohammad Albara Sami, the Group General Manager of Mekadam Holding Group. A visionary leader, Engineer Albara Sami is renowned for his dynamic leadership and his strategic planning expertise, which have driven Mekadam Holding Group to remarkable success, with a track record that includes securing strategic deals worth over USD 600 million and overseeing the growth of a publicly listed company valued at Qatari Riyal 2.3 billion. Engineer Albara Sami has become a key figure in the Qatari and Gulf business communities, and his leadership has been pivotal in fostering high-performance cultures and driving sustainable growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Engineer Mohammad Albara Sami to the stage. Welcome. Well, thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us today. We sincerely hope this session brings fruitful results onto the table. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Can we get another microphone?
We can start. We can start. Good evening, all of you, and thank you for joining this panel. I think we have a very mixed background here, and the reason why we have selected this eminent panel is to get our audience a good, 360-degree view of many of, of different aspects that our Indian businesses, which are predominantly SMEs, are faced with. So I think I'll start with you, Mr. Mohammed. And one of the questions that every single business that we have here is looking at is in your newest role, which is your role as the board member of QDB, and to understand the wider ecosystem that supports the SMEs. QDB being the anchor player, but also the broad ecosystem around it that is supporting and nurturing the SMEs in this country. So I think if you could give some insights into what that means for the business and how that is actually going to shape the future of our SMEs in the country.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here. And by the way, it's being as a board member, it's a new role. So I already have an engagement with them, part of my role with Skip Cash. QDB in the past 4 years with my engagement with them, of course, yes, they initiated several projects that focus on, let's say, endorsing and supporting SMEs, starting from the idea stage, where there are several incubation and acceleration programs that's been introduced in many sectors, whether from manufacturing, technology, and also business sides. We have this digital incubation center, which is powered by MCIT along with the QDB, and there is the business accelerators mostly powered by QDB is Qatar Business Incubation Center, which play a supportive role in two sectors, which is business, technology, and manufacturing. The programs that they've done is providing this kind of innovation coupon where they provide this kind of early stage grants where those founding teams can bring up the idea into at least a sellable product. Yes. Those programs, they continue to move forward. Those 4 years of development and encouraging the market and bringing those business owners and founders with those kind of different kind of ideas is pushed the government. Last year, during Web Summit last year and the announcement of His Excellency, the Prime Minister, the allocation of the $1 billion fund. And we see right now the establishment of several VCs, venture capitalists, into Qatar. So we saw the completion of allocating this Golden Gate Ventures,
Yes.
Ras Mal,
That's one more, right?
Alchemix X Accelerator, and also there is one more coming. And we are right now expecting a new announcement in this year Web Summit. And we believe this will, of course, will drive innovation and support and also endorsement of SME development and growth. QDB, yes, it is a government bank, but regardless, we are seeing a lot of initiatives and, let's say, agile approach and responsiveness on to what the market is requiring and demanding. And as you can see, the recent structure of the board of directors of QDB show, let's say, a bright signal that His Highness the Emir want to push people from the market. We see the allocation of, or let's say, adding a board member, of course, from Minister of Finance to Minister of Commerce and Industry, and also a board member which is Mr. Ashraf Abu Isa. He's part of the businessmen association organization, and the allocation of assigning a new role for SMEs, and I'm honored to be selected to take this role. So of course this is something that we want to, it's a sign that a new mandate is coming, inshallah, and inshallah we'll see these new hopefully programs and initiatives going to be inshallah endorsed by the new board of directors.
Thank you, Mohammed. QDB has, over time, has funded numerous organizations, and as we speak, they constantly evolve their programs, and our suggestion would be for you to constantly keep an eye on the schemes that QDB introduces time to time, because as a consulting firm, we get to see different advisory support, the recent being a complete cost optimization, a business process improvement. There are several projects that QDB supports and supports very generously. And it's not meant to be, obviously you need to have a Qatari association. You cannot be a completely a foreign-owned entity which is not part of their remit. So as long as you have a Qatari ownership, you can benefit from numerous schemes. So that's something which the government is doing, and every SME should look out for. Thank you. So coming on, let me just jump to the other end of the panel. Ajay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Let me start. I mean, I did speak a lot about our NDS 3 and the way the government is moving forward. The focus on the economic diversification, the clusters, etc. It'll be good to share a broader perspective of where the global economy is headed to, as you see through the lens of Ajay as well as QNB, and the policy regime that you're seeing, especially with Trump in the hot seat, and how does it all what does that mean for Qatar? What does it mean for the policy regime in Qatar, and how does that affect a common man's business every day?
Thanks, Rajesh, for having me. And I can assure you, after the discussion so far, I've junked 70% of my presentation so far. So I'm going to keep it very short and just focus on the 30% of what I need to say. Before I commence, I need to add the caveat that the views that I express are not necessarily ascribed to by my employer, QNB. So these are my personal views. Before we look into what is the impact of the policy regime or whatever is the economic change in policies across the world has an impact. You need to realize why it is important for a businessman sitting in Qatar. If you look at the past empirically, you had a global financial crisis in US which had nothing to do with Qatar or Qatari businessmen, but it shaved off nearly 18% of the GDP, and the market tanked by 66% from peak to trough. You had the oil crisis in 2014, where you had the oil coming down by 75% from $115 to $40, largely because the shale, the supply coming in from shale, and then you had the price war with Saudi Arabia, and that reduced our GDP activity by 28%, and you had a market that is coming down by 42%. You had the blockade, and there again, the GDP activity was able to sustain, but then you had a market that came down by another 32%. And you had the COVID, where again you had nearly 26% of your GDP contracting, that is in nominal terms, and then you had your market coming down by 25%. So Qatar is no longer insulated, whether you're a small business, large business, you are connected to the rest of the world. So you need to be cognizant of what happens. Even small events, of latest, whatever happened within Russia and Ukraine, or what the Japanese carry trade that got unwound a year back, the tremors were felt in Qatar. So it's extremely important that you really understand what is happening around the world, whether you're running a restaurant, whether you're running a manufacturing unit, whether you're running a service-oriented unit, it will have a telling effect on your business, whether it is on the cost of funding, whether it is on your growth opportunities, whether it is on the currency, and the government spending pattern here, because a lot of it is dependent on the government spending. So coming back to Raj's point, where do we look at the international, the global economy? I divide the global economy into two eras. I call it the BT and the AT. BT is before Trump, and AT is after Trump. So the world was chugging along very nicely before Trump. We had an economic growth of just marginally over 3%, and led by US. US was growing at around 2.8%, India at 7.5%, and then China at 5%. EU was the laggard with less than 1%, but then again, the economic growth was very fine. The Fed's policy rates were looking on its glide path. It reduced interest rates 3 times, so from 5.5 peak, it came down to 4.5. So therefore, it was looking very rosy. The inflation had come down from the high. It came down to around 3%, a bit sticky there, but then the glide path was looking very good. And there were indications in the third quarter of last year that you're going to have 8 interest rate cuts, which means the cost of funding, which is very important for you, was going to come down dramatically. You had the stock market, which was in a strong bull run. The Magnificent Seven were doing very well, nearly for 3 years running. You had a bond market, which had terrible to 2022-23, but was recovered very well in 2024. Gold was doing very well. So we were in a Goldilocks period. Everything was looking so very nice. But all good things have to come to an end, and you had the great disruptor coming in. So that is AT, the after-Trump effect. So what does Trump want? What happened? So there are 4 cornerstones of his basic policies, and I add a 5th one to it because it's very important for Qatar. First one is tariffs. 2 is in terms of taxes. 3 is in terms of immigration, that is basically labor. 4th is what he calls doggy and efficiency, doggy or dodgy, whatever you call it, basically reducing the cost of the US government. And then, of course, the 5th element that I want to add in is the impact of the he wants to junk the green policy that Biden had, and then he's focusing on more oil and shifting the ban on offshore oil rigging by US. Now that can have a material and important impact on the Middle Eastern countries. So let's look at each of these and see why and the kind of impact it has. First is tariff. Why does he want to have tariffs? So currently US has a trade deficit of $918 billion. Now, nearly 8 years back, when I was speaking at Neven and QE, and that is a Qatar exchange, that was the time when Trump was having his first term, he had the same issue. And at that point in time, the trade deficit was $500 billion. So he nearly doubled. So he has a problem. So where is it emanating from? It emanates from the top country being US, being China, which is generating about $279 billion of trade deficit, along with Vietnam. If you add Vietnam, it's about 300, so it's 100. China just routes its trade through Vietnam. So he wants to set that right. 2 is Germany, 3 is India, 4 is Korea, and Japan. So these are the countries that I'm going to focus on because it has an impact on Qatar. I'll tell you why later. But then there are various other countries which has got tariff issues, which includes Mexico and Canada, and you would have seen the various news clippings on what he's trying to achieve there. So why does this matter and how does it impact? So as a Qatar businessman, 4 things are very important for you. One is the cost of funding. How does it affect? Because if you're today going to borrow at 7 or 8%, will it come down materially? It should have come down materially. So let's look at the first one. So when it comes to the tariff and when it comes to taxes, all these issues have a negative effect on inflation, meaning the inflation will go up. And if inflation goes up, basically you're going to have the interest rates go up. That means the Fed is what it planned as 8 cuts in the past will not have the 8 cuts. So last FOMC meeting, they said that you're going to reduce interest rates probably by just 1 cut. So you're going to have a 25 basis cut from 4.5 to around 4.25. Otherwise, it could have come down to as low as around 2.25. So you've lost about 175 or 200 basis points in terms of your cost of funding, and that is material. And why is it so important? It's not just the nominal rate, it's the real rate. Qatar has the highest real rate of interest. So what exactly do we mean by real rate of interest? It's basically the difference between the nominal rate you pay and the inflation. Qatar's inflation is less than 1%, but then you pay close to around, the QCB rate today is around 5.1%. After 1 cut, it'll probably come down to 4.9. But still, you have nearly 4% of real rate. It's much higher than what anybody else pays. The EU currently has a real rate of 40 basis point. What good did they do in their life to deserve borrowing money at 0.4% real rate, whereas there's nothing wrong with the Qatar economy, but you pay really 4%. So there has to be a rationalization of how to bring this cost of funding down. But the challenge to do that is because of the monetary policy. So when you have a pegged currency to US dollar, the monetary policy tool that you have in your hand to try and manage your interest rate is very limited. So therefore, you're stuck to what US does. So as long as the US inflation lies at 3%, and as long as their borrowing rate is at 4.25 or 4.5%, you're stuck with a high real rate. So you need to be cognizant of that, and you need to realize that your borrowing cost is going to remain high for some time before it starts coming down as and when the US inflation or the Fed reduces its rate. The other factor that I wanted to add on is in terms of growth. So the global economic growth is going to marginally drop because of the trade wars, and I believe it's going to be marginally lower than the 3%. But it's again going to be driven by US, 2.4%. India's growth is going to come down from 6.5 to from 7.5 to 6.5. China is going to remain where it is, and EU is going to again be somewhere around below the 1% mark, 0.85. That is the growth projection that you have. But what is again important to you as you look at growth for Qatar is the ability, intent, and the opportunities. The ability is a function of the revenues that the government generates, and there are 2 avenues to it. The first is what do you expect for the oil to do? There are 2 factors that affect the oil. One, as I mentioned, the Trump policy that allows more oil to come into the market, which basically means that the supply, because oil prices are mostly affected by supply side, not the demand side. Demand side just grows in an organic manner over time, but it's the supply side that affects the price of oil. And the other factor is, of course, if there is a reconciliation between Russia and Ukraine, which is quite possible, you're going to have more Russian oil or cheaper Russian oil coming into the market. So that puts a downward pressure on both the oil and gas. But the second factor is even more important and critical because this is more geopolitical in nature. So what is happening right now is, as I mentioned before, one of the cornerstones of Trump's policy is managing tariffs. So how do these countries try and reduce their trade deficit? China today has 279 billion. You have Germany that has nearly 87 billion. You have Korea that has 57. You have Japan, which has $71 billion. And you have India somewhere around $35 billion of trade deficit. Now, the way Trump is going to look at it is, we are going to increase tariffs for you unless you cut tariffs yourself. Now, how do these countries try and negotiate that? So one thing that is happening is, what is it that you can actually buy from US to reduce tariffs? So what is India gone ahead is to try and buy some defense materials, and there is a possibility that you will try and buy more oil or gas, and that's why he has actually opened up the oil and gas sector in US. Same is the case with EU. EU currently has reduced its buying from Russia. It's buying more from the Middle East. So what will happen? To try and reduce the trade deficit, he's going to push them to go and buy oil and gas from US. Again, that puts pressure on the Middle Eastern market. Same is the case with Korea, same is the case with Japan. And that's important for Qatar because these are the largest buyers of Qatar gas and oil. So therefore, the trade war triggers mostly on a geopolitical front. You're going to see a lot of pressure on the Middle Eastern supply. That means there's going to be pressure on oil, there's going to be pressure on gas. India is going to be today is the second largest importer in the world, and very soon it's going to be the largest. Because if you're going to move from emerging economy into a developed market, you're going to see the per capita consumption of energy literally doubling. That means a lot of energy that is needed. So India becomes such a critical market. But if it is not able to reduce its trade balance with US, they are going to have to buy more oil or gas from US, probably at a higher cost. But then it is a better trade-off rather than having a trade war with US and increase the tariffs, which would be far more expensive than buying gas at a higher rate, because gas from Qatar is far more cheaper than buying it from anywhere else. The other factors, I think I'm going to just concentrate on two other factors. One is in terms of currency. So you're going to see the dollar is going to strengthen in the short term. And you've seen that against the emerging market currencies. If you're an importer, you will see that your ability to buy stuff from the emerging markets is going to be much cheaper, but that is not going to be sustainable. You're going to see going forward in 26, 27, the dollar will begin to get weaker. Other than that, in terms of Qatar economy, I think a lot was already covered by Rajesh, and I'm not going to repeat in terms of the GDP growth. But the only thing that you need to be cognizant is that, okay, there's a big jump in the economic activity in 2026 and 27 because of the LNG, moving from 77 to actually 110 and then to 126 and to 142 million metric tons per unit. That means literally you're going to double your revenue potential going now to 230, but the growth rate will peak and then go back to the normal of 2% in the future, post-2030. How do you convert that into a higher multiple? And that is the biggest challenge that Qatar is facing. We have the lowest multiple factor when it comes to converting government expenditure into GDP activity. If you look at UAE, it has a multiple of 8.5. You look at India, it has 6.7. You have US, you have 4.8. Qatar is somewhere around 3. So that what it simply says is the amount of money the government spends that converts itself into economic activity. So you need to have a higher multiplier effect, and for that you need the non-hydrocarbon activity to really pick up. So I'll just summarize now. You're going to have reasonable growth going forward, strong growth for Qatar. You're going to have cost of funding is going to be elevated in the short term till such time you see the inflation settling down and the Trump tantrums and the tariffs settle down in the US to some kind of an understanding among countries. Till then, otherwise your cost of funding is going to remain elevated. There's a 90 basis points premium from the Fed to Qatar borrowing rate. And then you're going to have the commodity prices, which are going to remain elevated for some time. Oil is going to be weak. We're looking at an average of 73 and probably even going down to 68 by next year. Right. So I'll conclude for now, and then.
I think that's a good enough explanation. I think the most important thing, which is important for our businesses, is which you picked on, is the cost of funding. I think, which is something which, if we can manage that down as much as possible, it's obviously going to benefit the businesses. But the most important thing, everything that was said more from an economic standpoint, the macroeconomic global thing, is we're not an insulated economy. Everything that happens across the world has a knock-on effect on us in whether it is in our cost of funding, whether it is in the way, our own response to tariffs, etc., and also our biggest export, thing, which is the oil and gas. Everything has an impact. So I think it's good to hear, and I'll very quickly jump to Ahmed. Ahmed, one important question that everyone, every business would ultimately aspire is not just from being a family-run organization, from being a proprietorship, you become, in this journey of corporatizing, and ultimately being able to list yourself on a stock exchange and be seen as, as you have arrived. In many ways, because it's a signature to say that you've been accepted by the public. So in that journey, what do you, in your experience, and very specifically to our Qatar market, you've been part of some of very successful listings. What have you seen is the life of, taking all the way from an organization which is, in its sort of, I would say, middle age to where ultimately you land up on the stock exchange. So what's that journey like? And what do you think, there are some aspiring, IPO candidates in the room, and what do you think is the journey they should ideally start preparing for?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. It is an honor to be here with you today. Thank you, Rajesh. You said it clearly. It is the natural step for any company to aspire to become a listed company one day. A company, it's very important for this decision because a company can only IPO one time in its entire lifetime. And that's why we always advise the earlier you can start, the better. This starts with at least defining the objectives, defining what the shareholders and stakeholders envisage from this IPO. And this can take usually between 12 to 20, like when we start working with companies, we start to work 12 to 24 months prior to the first day of listing. And this can include anything to do with enhancing internal systems, enhancing valuations, enhancing corporate governance. Some of these steps are very important in the listing. And as you know, with some of the family offices here, some of these regulations and rules do not apply to them. So making the shareholders understand this and work towards this sometimes does take time. So one of the most important is to start early. The earlier you start, the better it becomes. Additionally, it's also very important to work with a listing advisor that has done the process before. I mean, the team that we have at Maroon Capital, prior to even establishing Maroon Capital, we have very good experience with listings. Post-establishment of Maroon Capital, we've listed 2 companies, one on the main market for BIMA Islamic Insurance and one on the venture market for Fahd al-Fardan and Mahar Holding. So working with an advisor that has done this process more than once really helps a lot because they can manage the process, the smaller steps, the internal steps between the regulators, between the stock exchange, the Qatar Financial Market Authority, IDA, all of these bridging everyone together in order to make the transaction happen. Yeah. And the most important is the shareholders take the most informed decision. And that's why we like to start early to ensure what are the objectives, can we meet the objectives, where are the gaps, how can we help them mitigate these gaps and get them ready?
So Ahmed, just as a follow-up question on that, we have 2 options. One is you get to the junior market and then you graduate all the way to the main market, which is what, like I'm holding where I sit as a board member. We have done that and we have done that successfully. So just for our benefit and everyone's benefit, what is that, that you would suggest is the right path an organization can take from a Qatar context? Do you really go to the main market, or is junior market, a journey that they have to go through? And also, given the liquidity in the market, the depth of the market, what are your top 3 reasons why an organization should list on the Qatar stock market?
Okay, there's some very good questions. And for both of those answers, it depends, obviously. Between the venture market and the main market, I mean, the main difference is really in the regulation and the corporate governance and the obligations as a listed company. So for some companies that were more that were more family offices, maybe it does make more sense to go venture first, where the regulations are a bit lighter.
Yeah.
Become a listed company for 1 or 2 years before you can go to the main market. This is what we did with our company, Mahar Holding. They first listed onto the venture market, and within the next week, they're actually going to go to
So you
the
don't
main
need
market.
to heavy lift all the compliance.
Yes,
in
exactly.
one
And it's also, it's like a stepping stone, right? It's like, let me get on the venture market, regulations are a bit lighter, corporate governance is a bit lighter. Let me practice how to do this before I go into the main market. I mean, McDam is also another prime example of a company going from venture to main. But on the other hand, you also have QCB regulated companies, for example, insurance, Damak Islamic Insurance, BIMA, which we also listed. They've already been operating in a very regulated environment. They've already been doing quarterly financials, sending their corporate governance. So for these companies, it makes more sense to go directly to the main market.
Because the compliance framework
Because the compliance
is developed.
framework is already developed, everything is already, the gaps that you will find in these companies are much, much less than the gaps you'll find in some of the family offices. When it comes to the objectives or the main reasons, it's really, there's really a lot of benefits and objectives of listing. I mean, the primary one is either raising capital for a company that has expansion plans or needs capital to grow, and also giving an opportunity for shareholders to exit if the capital raise objectives are not there. But also what we've been seeing in the Qatari market today is a lot of companies want to go market mainly for corporate governance and succession planning. So a lot of companies have been developed over the last 40, 50 years. They've grown, they've become very big, mature companies. And today it's about sustainability of this company. How can I ensure this company will last even before me, for the chairmen who have established and built? And once you're on the market, you're then under a regulated environment whereby you have regulators like the Stock Exchange, the Qatar Financial Market Authority, where really the goal is sustainability, succession planning, and ensuring this company stays for the longer term, even past the founders and the people who established it.
Right. Otherwise, you generally tend to see that it doesn't last beyond the third generation. Right. Sir, the partner in crime. Just Gopal, coming back to to which is our mainstay of the economy, oil and gas. We spoke about it. Jay has touched upon it. If you could just give a very quick snapshot of how this economy has evolved and where you see the oil and gas sector of Qatar, which will continue to be the mainstay, but what are the developments and where do you see opportunities, especially in the downstream sector, for Indian businesses to actually tap into?
Thank you, Rajesh. First of all, thank you very much for having me here, this elite panel. It's really an honor to be here. You touched on a subject which is very close to my heart. I can keep talking for the whole night, but in the interest of the time, I'll keep it short. The evolution of Qatar through energy sector. I always say this in many forums. Qatar can be taken as a case study itself. There are many countries which has got natural resources, but nobody has utilized or exploited the natural resources in such a judicial way as Qatar has done it. Especially I call this as a golden period, 1994 to 2007, the golden era of Qatar in terms of the growth from the hydrocarbon sector. Why 1994? Because 1994 was the foundation stone laid for Qatar Gas 1. And then 2007 is where Emir celebrated 77 million tons achievement in Ras Laffan. There's a LED screen, a big LED screen, a circular one, where who is who of oil and gas was there. And so this golden period of Qatar, they have done so much. So whatever you see in Qatar, I always say it's because of the visionary decisions they have taken on the LNG sector, mainly. So in fact, 1989, 88, I believe I've talked to some of the hydrocarbon leaders of this country. When they went for a roadshow to Europe and US, people laughed at Qatar. You're talking about LNG, Qatar is going to look at LNG development. They didn't give them chance, but it turned around within 5 years. 1994, LNG 1, Qatar Gas 1, With that, then Qatar Gas 1, 2, 3, 4, then Ras Laffan, Ras Gas 1, 2, 3. So total 14 trains they built up within the span of 13 years from 0 to 77. So this is a cash cow. The LNG model is a cash cow. The product is sold. Most of the product is sold on long-term SPAs. Even now, 80% of Qatar Energy LNG is sold by long-term SPAs. Only balance 15 to 20% is on spot deals. So that kind of a model is always a successful model. It's a capital-intensive industry. You know, oil and gas is a capital-intensive industry. You require so much of cash. So there is one project finance department of Qatar Energy which raised about $150 billion within a span of 7 to 8 years. That has only fueled this economy. Whatever you see in Qatar is because of that $150 billion which came into the economy, mainly into LNG, but they didn't stop in LNG alone. They went into other crude development plus the downstream industries. We talk about QAFCO, it was only QAFCO 3. Now they're going to QAFCO 4. Blue ammonia is QAFCO 4. QAFCO 6 is already in stream. From nowhere, they're going to produce about close to 12,000 urea, I believe, 12,000 tons of urea will be the capacity by 2030. Now they're about 6 million. So it will go to 12 million tons. So even ammonia is also big, production. So it's not just fertilizer, LDP, polyethylene, they're number one, smelter plant, QVC, you name it. So there have been so much of investment which has happened in the downstream as well. So LNG is the backbone that will stay as a backbone, as Ajay also pointed out. They were at 77. Now North Field, you also touch base, North Field East, which will bring in 32 million tons. North Field South will bring in another 16 million tons. So from 77, they're suddenly going to 142. 142 by 2027. Then another 6 months back, Minister announced they're going to go for North Field West, another 16 million tons. So it's going to 142, from 127 to 142 by 2030. In fact, last week he said they're not going to stop, they're going to touch 160. This is never ending. This LNG development is never ending. They had a moratorium for 12 years.
Gopal, there is 610 million. This is a publicly
610 million tons
tons
in 27 years. In 27 years,
600 sold out.
610 million tons sold out in the next 27 years. So this is the kind of, this is a cash cow. Since I'm closely involved in this hydrocarbon sector for so many years, I can say that you open the tap, dollars are falling. So this is the kind of, and Qatar has been blessed to have that kind of a geographical location where the gas pressure is so high. The entire 900 trillion cubic feet is in one field, North Field. It's not like Russia and Iran, even though they have more gas resources. It's a huge country, scattered around a huge country. Here there is one field with so much of pressure, you just tap, gas comes out. The bar pressure is so high in North Field. So this again, God has blessed Qatar to have that kind of a geographical location, but that is not enough. Somebody has to take some missionary decisions. That's what they have done. There have been so many challenges. 1998, the oil price went down to $8, and that's the time when the country has borrowed left, right, center for Qatar Gas and Ras Gas. People question, challenged, but you've been resilient. You've been steadfast in your objectives, and that's why they came out of all this, and they're able to continue growing. So this 160 million tons, I'll tell you, next 60, 70 years, this country is sorted out because this cash is going to keep coming.
Gopal, the other important thing which for the benefit of the community is the Tauteen program. Yep. It's an amazingly designed where they've taken out this whole supplier equation to the next level, which is as an investor, as a real partner. So you bring in the technology, I give you my feedstock, or I give you my playground, you come and do that. But it's not that you make a lot of money, you make the kill and go, it's a partnership. So I think this is working out very well. We are seeing businesses, not just one, many Indian businesses who have actually won significant projects, in the downstream sector through the Tauteen program. Is this here to stay? What's your opinion?
Yeah, this is kicked off at least 4 years back, Tauteen, the in-country value. This is basically localization of supply chain initiative. So so for example, last year, 75 companies won jobs under the Tauteen project. across 5 major sectors. The subsectors they got, which is subsurface. I think you touch base also on chemicals. There's a lot of thing happening on chemicals. There's on the MRO, which is the maintenance, repair, and overhaul. There also that's a major subsector. Then they have the light building, light equipment and building services, LBS. That's another sector where. Then digital. There are 5 subsectors where there's huge opportunities. 75 companies have already won jobs from Tautin project, and this is not going to end. There is continuous investment which has been sought after for Tautin project. Qatar Energy is really championing this in a big way. You know the ICV scorecard. This regular monitoring of ICV scorecard. Companies who want to work with energy sector, they need to have proper scoring mechanism, monitor them. That score depends on how much they invest on local market, how they how they patronize the local suppliers, how do they invest on Qatari population, the local, the investment in their own people. All these things are embedded in the ICV scorecard, and it's been regularly monitored. Even when you win a project, like having a good score, that is not enough. During the project, you have to monitor that. You have to keep that ICV score at that level. Otherwise, you can be, thrown out of the job. So I think there's a lot of focus on human development, supplier focus, supplier development. That's also an area where Qatar Energy is investing. A lot of training programs to upskill the suppliers to make sure that they come up to the international level. So I think Tautin is definitely there to stay. There'll be more projects which are going to be included in that. A lot of feasibility studies. There are about 100 100 sectors where studies have already been done. Okay, so slowly Qatar Energy will go for it. As I said, 75 people have benefited now, and this is not going to end. It's going to continue. There are more, there are about 8 sectors where 2025 Qatar Energy is going to announce jobs. So I think this is going to continue, in my opinion.
I think the important point to take note of is the radical shift that we have seen over from 2005, if you remember, Gopal, we worked on a project called Amwaj Catering, where QP used to run catering services. I mean, that was the domination of public sector in this country. Now, to actually giving away some of the core services in oil and gas sector to the private sector. So that's the radical shift. We actually worked on Amwaj Catering. I don't know how many of you would know. That was a very surprising, I mean, you could...
Amwaj Catering person is there.
Yeah, Farooq.
Farooq is there.
Yes, Farooq.
No, not just Amwaj. Qatar Energy also had real estate. Al Sharif real estate.
No,
they came out of all this.
An example to say as to the kind of shift as to the role that they have given the private sector today, whether it's in the provision of healthcare, education, energy. It's a huge opportunity that they want the private.
5 IPOs they have done from the hydrocarbons just to diversify the wealth, give the wealth of hydrocarbon sector to the public. They did Wakood. Wakood was nothing but QP refinery. QP refinery became Wakood. Then that was 2001. 2003 was Industries Qatar, and 2007 was GIS. 2014 was MPHC, which is QChem 2, QVC put together MPHC. And then last one was Camco, Catalum. 5 listings have gone out of hydrocarbon sector to diversify, to share the wealth among the private sector. And this is unheard of in the regional market. Aramco, they're still struggling, So this kind of distribution of hydrocarbon wealth has happened over the last 15, 16, no. It started in 2001. Wakood was 2001. Last 25 years, Qatar Energy has done that.
I think you are hearing from someone who has the privilege of sitting in the boardroom of Qatar Energy. Qatar, so he is the man who signs the balance sheet to Qatar Energy, and he has the privilege of listening right inside. He has got the eyes and ears on the
God has been kind, KPMG has been kind enough. As I said, every single entity of Qatar Energy group, I've had the privilege to work with them from 1994 till date, and that's given the opportunity to know insights of what's happening and what's going to happen.
Thank you. Thanks, Gopal. But here is, another great opportunity to speak to somebody who has actually literally, actually had the right of taking an organization from what has been a small to medium enterprise to what is significantly a large corporation today. Parav, welcome to this panel.
Thank you.
I want to start with you sharing with us this experience of MEGDAM as an organization which today stands as a great role model of having gone through this journey. We've taken the listing route and continue to dominate and diversify, not just in Qatar in different sectors, but also geographically. If you were to share with this crowd, what are the 5 things that an aspiring business can learn from the success story of MEGDAM? What would that be?
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Actually, what Mr. Rajesh has mentioned is a very real example today. We started as a small to medium private company. We increased our scale of business significantly. We listed in the ventures market, then we went to the main market. And all of that, we went from few millions worth of contracts, 2017, and to today we are running multiple billion worth of contracts in hand in a very short period of 5 to 6 years. What can I say about our journey? We are very much non-traditional business. We disrupted the way that corporates and companies do business. We believe that we can achieve a significant milestones in a very short period, and this is how we did it. We started in the end of 2017, early 2018, bidding for small to medium projects in the country. In 2020 and 2021, we were bidding to Qatar's most strategic projects like Hamad International Airport, infrastructure development, where other companies were bidding like, who's this new company and what they are doing here with the 40 years old companies who were dominating the tech industry and were controlling a lot of partnerships in the region. And the surprise came thanks to the trust of the market and very genuine pre-qualification process of the government organizations that gives the opportunity for new players and the anti-domination culture. So we've been given the opportunity to compete with companies that has existed for 40, 30 and 40 years in the market, and we've won against them. Not only that, we have developed these projects in a very innovative and very dynamic ways and methods that made us come up with very successful stories about how a new company can really compete with giants. And today, companies who did not know our name 5 years ago, today they are losing against us in a fair competition. So we have used a very much untraditional way of approaching and penetrating the market, executing the jobs. Technology is a rapidly growing domain, and we leveraged on that. You cannot depend on your legacy when it comes to technology. You have to be up to date, you have to be competitive, you have to be innovative. And that's why MEGDAM today is almost, you hardly put your finger anywhere on Qatar map and you don't find MEGDAM name in some project there. We are in the infrastructure. We are one of the few companies who has been awarded contracts in NFE, North Field Expansion. We are participating in NFS and NFW, new opportunities. We're working with large EPC contractors. And also, we've gained the trust of the public market by being listed. Again, I can capitalize on my colleagues' statements by us being part of Qatar's journey to success. Probably everybody heard that yesterday JP Morgan has reclassified Qatar and Kuwait as developed markets, and they started removing them from emerging markets index. So this is this is something which is booming now in the media. So we cannot deny that we are part of a rapidly growing market. I was in meeting with the Minister of Investment of the UK 2 days ago, and she was impressed how dynamic and rapidly growing this economy is. And I was telling her like a real life examples. And you'll not believe that today we are implementing technologies and we have certain tech projects in Qatar that we are far more advanced than the UK and some European countries. Who would have believed a country that was a desert, يعني half a century back, and now we are ahead, not only competing with the developed markets all over the globe. So we cannot deny that we are part of Qatar's success story, and we took leverage of the dynamic culture and the very fair policies that are implemented in many of our client organizations like Qatar Energy, LNG, the banking sector, and thanks also to the very much mature listing and consulting community that is also advising companies like us how to be compliant with the IPO requirements. Being listed company has gave us a lot of credibility in front of the public. It made our books open to everyone. It gave us a leverage because we're very transparent. Our internal compliance with policies gave us a lot of credibility in front of the market. Our focus on technology has been our main strength. Modern Intelligence, which is an Indian research and reporting firm, has listed many reports about Qatar tech industry, and all of it is going from 7 to 19%, whether it comes to managed services, Internet of Things, AI. Now with Qatar AI strategy being announced, AI Qatar digital agenda being announced, Web Summit coming tomorrow to Qatar, you can see that tech is the future of Qatar. Whether it is related to energy, traditional oil and gas, or when it comes to digital transformation, which is massive now in Qatar. You can see NCIT initiatives booming everywhere, multi-billion riyals worth of opportunities that are under the category of digital transformation are being on the market now, because Qatar is very clear that they don't want to be a traditional oil and gas driven country. They want to invest in human resources, technology, infrastructure. Qatar has spent billions of dollars in developing a very advanced infrastructure, which is now going to the next level of capitalizing the services and solutions and the operation of this smart infrastructure, which is represented in the digital transformation strategy of the country.
I think one other point that I wish to add as a secret, or one of the secrets to the success of MEGDAM is they chose the path of alliances and partnerships. They didn't choose the path of doing it on their own.
That's why we have one of the highest ICVs in the country.
The number of alliances, and that's something which I've noticed as a non-executive board member, that the number of global partnerships they have signed up in the last 5 years.
More than 400.
More than 400 alliances. So you can pretty much be assured anything that you give to MEGDAM, they have 3 options up their sleeve. World-class partnerships, and I think that's the way to go. You can't do everything on your own. Here is a great model of what has been achieved through global partnerships and alliances, where you bring your technology, you bring your functional knowledge, be it the domain knowledge, you can do that through partnerships. And I think MEGDAM has proven, and the success they are tasting is not because of anything else but the hard work that has gone behind that. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to you, on a slightly different note, Omar. You are one of the pioneers of fintech here. The Skip Cash which you founded, and now you have forayed into pay later, which is the BNPL. For me, I think, and as I mentioned, along with technology, AI, emerging technologies, fintech is where the opportunity lies. And also the use of embedded finance in your business, which I spoke about, it's a massive opportunity. And we're talking about, BNPL, which is scratching the surface, and there's so much to come. Where do you see the fintech opportunity, and what areas do you think are the use cases where people are likely to actually come up with something very disruptive in this market very soon?
Well, we see the Qatar Central Bank strategy is being published very recently with many segments there that it's either the framework is already out for the public, companies can go and start the licensing process, or probably some of the licensing that are in the pipeline to be released. I'll just mention a few that are currently released, like payments, buy now, pay later, crowdfunding, wealth management, insurtech, AI, of course, blockchain.
Yep.
So many of those frameworks are already being sent to the public. So any companies or any founders who have those kind of new ideas, they can start the processing. Digital banking also is there. I believe in the coming 3 to 5 years, those ideas that are related to investment consultation for the new millennia or the new age of users, usually allowing small customers to invest early. In small tranches, not necessarily, because investment or saving to invest is something that you build as a habit as you grow up. And those young age customers right now, they are open to trying, and let's say they are open to, right now actually they are investing in Google or Tesla through those kind of new investment platforms. So having a company that starts and producing or offering their services here in Qatar,
Yeah.
they would have a better market share in offering those young customers to invest. Wealth management is an additional area. It's just that how to digitalize the process for family offices or those investment groups that want to diversify, but they want the right tools to have this kind of wealth management technology. And I believe this is an area that could flourish in the coming 3 to 5 years here in Qatar. And this is actually a part of what we're doing right now. Is buy now, pay later is a hot trend, not only in Qatar but in GCC in general. We see Tabi and Tamara use case right now. They are reaching most
Tamara
recent.
is my client in Saudi.
Yeah, so they are reaching Tabi, I guess, with their raised debt financing round, they reached 3.3 billion valuation. So, and they are only present in 3 countries, in Saudi, Kuwait, and UAE.
And so is Tamara, right?
Yes, both are present in the same markets, but this means there are other opportunities in different markets that are open for them to grow. But we see in GCC specific is that the smartphone penetration is high, 5G penetration or internet penetration is high, and also the e-commerce adoption is way greater than the rest of MENA countries. So I believe buy now, pay later will continue to grow, and since it's been recently regulated in Qatar, right now there are two companies up to launching their product. One of them pay later, and hopefully before Ramadan we'll see their launch, inshallah, in Qatar. So these areas, of course, the market is open to other players. And of course, the reason why BNPL in Qatar is also, there is market for it, but what we saw in Saudi Arabia is that there are BNPL specific for certain segments, like BNPL for schooling, BNPL for rent, and there are other sectors where I believe it's going to be, let's say, an opportunity for
it's a tremendous opportunity.
Yes,
And I mentioned also when I spoke is Tamara, or for that matter, many of these BNPLs are now venturing the B2B. Moving away just from the e-commerce B2C, is also actually having, and the beauty of that is you don't need to be a bank. You could still do the factoring of invoices. You could still have a bank on your site where you can transfer the risk. And these are use cases which are developing on a daily basis, and where huge opportunities sit. And I think, coming back to just Ajay, banks always had this, they were very precious about their data, and gone are those days, right? I mean, banking as a service, BaaS, is something which, you can see Lyft, which is a, Uber parallel. Actually, if you open their app, you can actually, any user, as a driver, if you're a Lyft driver, you can actually have a checking account inside their app. So you can imagine that you can actually have a checking account inside the app of another, completely non-financial services organization. So somebody is actually putting, a service which a bank offers right into the, into your mobile phone, into an app of another company, where they can actually check, the money gets transferred, they can make payments. So the world is, in a slightly different mode. So I think, coming back to that, on the banking thing, sticking on with the banking thing, there's a greater push to actually develop Qatar as an asset management hub. And we can see that happening. We were also privy to, some of the, there are funds being set up, global funds, which I am actually a board member, where the funds have come from different sovereign wealth funds which are being managed out. So example is Maha Capital. Maha Capital is a fund which is regulated by QFCRA and has LPs, all sovereign wealth funds, big ones are LPs and continue to actually become LPs, where the fund gets managed out of here. Do you see asset management becoming another success story for us as going forward?
Surely it can. But just going back to your earlier point in terms of banks, I do believe that banks are living on borrowed time. The banks have been very lazy in terms of innovation, and that's why I think the fintech will take the lead. It's just that we're protected by the central banks and various regulators to do that. Back to the asset management question, yes, I do believe that the asset management industry can go, because the next biggest thing that we can export other than gas and oil is capital. So we have enough capital available to invest. We have a culture of investment. There's sufficient risk appetite within here. And capital always goes to a place where it can be managed best. And that is basically attracting the best talent to come and set up here. Once you have the regulatory infrastructure environment that is conducive, we should be able to do it. I mean, where else do you find a place which has got political stability, economic stability, currency stability?
Yes.
All the ingredients that are there is there. So why did Switzerland succeed? It didn't have wealth of its own, but just create an environment where everybody else put their wealth there. You can do the same. You can do it even better because you also have wealth of your own. So I think, yes, it is possible.
Just in the interest of time, we'll just do a couple of rounds of questions. Gopal, very quickly, we are seeing the increased focus, or I would say enforcing the tax rules in country has gone from one level to another. And I think every single business here has to take note of it. There was a time when that was a tick the box exercise. It's no longer the case. it's a very, very serious thing. Many companies here would be sitting on a pile of penalties for having not filed on time, delays in filing, and also the assessments that we are seeing is starting to mature from just being, a prima facie assessment to a more in-depth assessment. And, I just want you to share with our audience what you think companies should take care or ensure that, taxation is right there as a priority matter.
Yeah, thanks. Landscape in Qatar is changing rapidly. Okay, it was a public revenue taxes department up to 2018. Government set up a separate authority called GTA, independent of Ministry of Finance, so that you have separate independent accountability. So GTA was set up in 2018. They have been on action after that, continuously doing something or other. There was a new law which came in 2021 as well. The executive regulations coming up every now and then. They want to kind of modernize their practices in line with OECD principles. There's an electronic submission of tax, which was not there before. Somebody has to go there and run and submit manually. Now electronics are the Dariba portal. Then you have risk-based assessments. So they are not doing 100% assessment. They're not taking everything and assessing taxes. Risk-based assessment process has been started. Yes, there is pain. There is pain in the market now. I could visualize that. I have lots of clients who are going through the pain now. There's so many changes. It's a journey. Now there's a new income tax director, GTA director who has come in, Khalifa Al-Khwari. He's a brilliant guy who was in QIA before. I'm sure he has brought in a good team as well. So it's a journey which we have to go through in any country where best practices are suddenly getting into action. And they got into BEPS Pillar 2 thing now. In 2024 end, they announced that GMT is going to be, the law has been passed, but there are certain pillars of the law, like safe harbors, de minimis exclusions. All those things, law has to come in, regulations have to come in. But plus, Trump's announcement about the GMT is also it's a setback for the region and the whole world as to how GMT will evolve. But talking about Qatar, there is a lot of things happening now. Assessments are being cleared. Yes, there is a pain in the market now. The private sector is feeling a pain in terms of seeing the assessments. But it's a journey which we have to go through. But as I said, there's a good team which has come in. And I've seen personally in the last 6 months, there's been a tremendous progress in terms of tax appeals. Tax appeal process is very robust now. Previously it was difficult. Now tax appeals process, as I said, electronic submission of taxes. All these things are going to evolve further the taxation system in Qatar. But only thing, a word of advice for all the audiences, don't take it easy. Things are moving fast and you got to put in proper systems and controls in place to make sure that data is captured properly, proper transparent accounting is there, and then reporting and submission happens within time so that you don't face any penalty situations later.
I think I just want to echo this message through the intent with which the tax laws are being enforced by the tax authority. It's very clear that it's here to stay and it develop. Businesses have to make sure that they give attention when it comes to preparing your financial statements and the audit process and tax returns. If you cut corners, you tend to compromise on it, you will have to pay a very heavy price.
There's no pain, there's no gain without pain. There is
Absolutely.
a painful process,
Absolutely.
but if you have to gain, then you got to go through this process.
And there is more coming. There is the VAT is in the offing, and the e-invoicing is in the offing. So there's more to come. So it's going to be here, and this is something which you will have to embrace as part of your business going forward. So
Tender of e-invoicing is already out.
Tender of e-invoicing
Invoicing
is out.
already
Yes,
but
yes.
but VAT, we are still waiting for only
Yeah, I mean,
2026.
this is a prelude to the
Yeah.
VAT because GTA wants to get the platform, national platform ready, and then you will very soon see the VAT coming in. Ahmed, just very quickly, one final question. I'll combine a couple of questions. One, there is a popular myth about IPO is this is for the promoters to cash out. Is that the only, there's a myth going around and a popular belief that IPO is about cashing out, the promoters want to cash out, or is it also seen as a growth capital tool? Second thing, what's life after IPO?
Yes, that rumor, that rumor is around. However, there's different types of objectives. There's different types of reasons of why these companies would like to IPO. I think you mentioned it very shortly in your presentation. It always comes down to the equity story. What is the equity story of the company? What makes this company special or different than anyone else within the sector or in the geography? And we always try to work with companies that have a good equity story. Because with a good equity story, you know that they will have a successful journey towards listing. Yes, as you said, there are rumors that the IPO is used as a cash out. However, the regulators, the companies, the advisors, they're all working to kind of understand what the objectives are, and if those are the objectives, they will have a hard time reaching the market.
Exactly. So I think once the objectives are set out, it's very clear how we want to take that forward. One final question, Mara, and I think, in the interest of time, we'll close with this last question. Mara, we spoke a lot about technology, AI adoption in this country, and that being the future. And there is certainly the commitment, whether it's the fintech, whether it's the adoption of AI, emerging technologies, be it IoT, in every single field, we're seeing the investment coming in. On a practically, on a daily basis, how do you see actually this actually converting into business, converting into opportunities for businesses? While, I mean, we all know that there's the intent, there is actually the fund being put in, we got the fund to fund which is being put in, we got the QDP fund. But in reality, what does that translate into on a daily basis? Is that a real thing where you can actually touch and feel like a GTA tender you mentioned? Is that really something which you see as an opportunity in the marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now all the new opportunities in the market are driven by technology, whether, as I mentioned, whether it is in the energy sector or in the infrastructure or the processes. AI, emerging technologies are having a direct impact on the day-to-day business today. Optimization of processes in digital marketing, in market analysis, in finance services. There is no question that it is disrupting the complete operations of how we are doing business or how we used to do business. Opportunities, actual opportunities, e-invoicing tender, it is not a confidential information. It is public on Ministry of Finance now. It's $500 million approximately opportunity as an initial stage.
Yep.
There are a couple of other opportunities that I don't want to mention yet it is to be announced, which is of the same scale. And this is all we are talking about: emerging technologies, digitalization of traditional processes. What Muhammad did is amazing disruption story. What he has done with the Skip Cash, and it's really an amazing story. I call him Elon Musk of Middle East, future Elon Musk of Middle East, mashallah. Muhammad, if you know that Elon Musk, PayPal, he was PayPal, he's Skip Cash, mashallah. Yani a young generation.
I mean, he's not finished. He's into the second
He's
one,
just
which
starting.
is the, pay later.
Yeah, mashallah. So if you look,
he'll end up with never pay.
Mashallah, I'm really proud to see Qatari young generation achieving such an amazing milestones. And yeah, it's an amazing story. So honestly, so proud of them, and they are a live example of disrupting the way of doing business. So definitely, technology is directly influencing and impacting the business decisions today and tomorrow and in the far future as well.
So that sort of reinforces our message today that our top picks in terms of opportunity, we believe emerging technologies, digitalization of services in this country would rank as the top opportunity without a doubt. And I think that's the way to go, because as world transforms itself with technology, Qatar wants to be at the forefront of it, and it will continue. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we had a great time. We could go on with this forever, but I think in the interest of time, we will close out. Thank you so much, and we look forward to having you another time. Thank you.